When the world has got you down. And
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alls, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer-Carter and me, Don Priest.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susie Singer-Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alls, next edition. How are you, Susan?
Wow, we got fancy. We got fancy, Don. You made us fancy.
I should have said
edition.
hashtag next edition. That would have been,
No, that's like so old school.
as the kids are saying.
Great, Grandpa.
Yeah, whatever. How you doing today?
I'm doing better. I had a backache for like 3 days, but now I'm doing much better. I thought I was gonna have to go into the hospital during COVID, which would have been just awesome. Just would have been tied up 2020 just perfectly.
It was like a dream come true.
Yeah. Just finished the avalanche of hell.
But you're feeling better today?
Yep, I feel better.
Outstanding.
My hair's blow dried. I'm wearing earrings.
Fancy.
I have coffee and I have a T-shirt with our logo.
Yeah, we do. Oh, you're wearing white today.
I'm wearing white. I'm shaking it up.
I've got the black one on, and we won't talk about that. You can get stuff, merchandise now. You can get T-shirts and coffee mugs. Where's your Oh, we don't.
My
have
coffee
the
mug is coming, but we just opened up a little bit of merch. So if you guys want to, just go to Instagram, our Instagram at Love Conquers Alls, and you can see there's T-shirts and cool sweatshirts and beanies, which I can't wait for my beanie, and coffee mugs.
A coffee mug with a heart handle.
With a heart handle, it's so cute.
Which are cool, and some of the proceeds are going to Alzheimer's Los Angeles, so that's the most important thing. Well, and the rest is going to our vacation. Well, there's no vacation.
Or my shoes, if I ever get to wear them again. Because who wears shoes anymore?
Who wears shoes? Why would you wear
shoes?
People
talk about no pants. I just wear no shoes. This is what goes on with me.
Well, and I'm doing the other thing. No pants. Woohoo!
Not trousers.
And I'm at work, which is really weird.
That is weird, Dawn. That's kind of dangerous.
It's not appropriate, but it's comfortable.
Yeah. So guess what?
What?
We have another cool guest.
Very cool guest. Why don't you tell us what his name is?
Well, his name is Max Goldman, and I want to tell you a little bit about how I got to know him, and then Don will tell you a little bit more about him. But this company that he launched, CAREFULL, which is cool, we'll tell you what it is, but they reached out to me to sort of tell my story, which is a situation for caregivers that they are addressing. So it was very exciting. I got to be one of their, promos, and they did a fantastic job, and we'll tell you more about it later. But he has a cool background. Donald.
He does. Let me tell you. I mean, Max Goldman, he's the CEO and co-founder of CAREFULL, and that's www.carefull.com. And it's a company creating digital services that help caregivers monitor and manage and protect the daily money matters of aging parents. Super important. When he was a teenager, Max, he fell in love with the possibilities of the internet. He has never looked back. Since then, he's had the opportunity to work in technology, venture capital, manage products at Google, and start up 3 companies. Director, DIRECTR, is the most recent company, and that was acquired by YouTube. And Max holds degrees from NYU and Columbia Business School. I'm worn out.
I'm tired, and
I feel apparently really incredible.
He's apparently like a wonderkin.
What the heck?
I know. I just want him to produce my film.
Just ask.
Let's bring him on.
We should. Hey, Max, come on in.
Let's introduce him. So,
ladies and gentlemen, Max Goldman.
Good morning, Max Goldman.
Good morning. How are you?
Very
Excellent.
Well.
Thank you.
With your nice cup of tea. We're happy to have you on our podcast.
Thanks. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to be on your project. You get to be on our project now. This is what we do. We have a community.
sharing knowledge,
Yeah,
helping
that's
each other.
right. That's right. Well, we're happy to get you. I know you've been busy because you've been like doing 100 million things, which is exciting, especially during COVID. And
Man. Oh
oh
man.
man, yeah,
Startup life during COVID is
I'm
fascinating,
sure it
I have to say.
is. Tell us, tell us.
It's led to some positive things, probably. I mean, there's a lot of negative, but let's look for the positive.
No, it's actually, it's really interesting. The company was always going to kind of be distributed, meaning, people in multiple places. But I had always sort of planned, right, that we would get together like at least quarterly. And it's been an interesting challenge to have to kind of build team
Yeah.
bonds and build like a shared purpose while only being able to see each other just like we're seeing each other now. And so it's a challenge, but I feel like we're doing reasonably well at it. And I love the team. I'm having a great
Oh,
time.
that's great.
And everyone's doing 10 jobs at the same time, but that's what startup life is.
Exactly. Well, I live in startup life. That's the story of my life is startup. Every project I have is a new startup. It's just, I don't know how to live any other way.
Every morning when I
don't-
get up, it's a new startup. Every
Yeah,
morning.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But
So,
the challenge of making something out of nothing is very difficult, but also it's so much fun.
right? It's so much fun to see it, to have a little seed of an idea, and then when it's done and you've realized it, it's like, shit, I did that.
It is a lot of fun to turn around from time to time and be like, wow, we've come a long way.
Definitely.
And then turn back around and go like, well, we still have a really long way to go.
And then there's that. And then there's that.
Yeah, but it's about the journey.
That
right?
is.
It's all of these things are about the journey.
Which brings us to the journey of being a caregiver, which is constantly changing, constantly has new challenges, and can be very, very satisfying and rewarding, even though it's difficult, right?
Absolutely. It's interesting. So you were alluding to this stories project that we had done, and one of the many ways to get at this, but just looking at the stories project, one of the things that was almost universally shared was that despite the innumerable challenges of being a caregiver, no one was ever never regretted having taken on the role, and no one looked back and said, I really wish I hadn't spent my time that way. Everyone feels that it was an important responsibility that they took on, and they feel a lot of satisfaction out of having done the best that they could do. And I think that's a really interesting element of caregiving, because I think for a lot of people from the outside, it's like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's horrifying. It's terrifying. Yeah.
And it's interesting with your background. I mean, you could have gone a million different ways, and you have gone a million different ways. But how did we end up here? What led to that?
Yeah, it's a very fair question. So, that, for those who may not be aware, is a company called CAREFULL, and supporting the tens of millions of Americans who are financial caregivers. So, the data shows, right, that there's something like 50 million Americans who are caregivers for another person on a day-to-day basis, and about 92% of those are also financial caregivers, which means they help manage the day-to-day finances, they pay bills, they dispute credit card charges. Very, very often, they also send money or use their own money to pay for things for the person they're taking care of. And so,
and may I add just that it's that responsibility sneaks up on you sometimes, like you don't even know that you're doing it, and suddenly it becomes your responsibility. You don't know it. It's very sneaky. So carry on.
It's actually a really important point. And what you come to realize is that, like, the finances are sort of the lifeblood of all care, and to some extent, you're trying to organize and procure resources. You're trying to find places and people to help, and what underlies that is the ability to pay for it in a lot of cases. Yeah. And so getting a handle on that and being in control of it is a really important part. And so I say all of this not to plug what we're doing, but to start the story of how we got here. So when I was looking at the prompt and I was thinking about, I tell this story in a lot of different ways, but I think the first moment when I realized how difficult being a caregiver was watching my Aunt Arlene take care of my grandparents on my father's side. And she essentially became the CEO of that household and everything that it entailed, on the medical side, on the operational side, and on the financial side.
It's a great framework. It's a great way to frame it. CEO. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I at the time was in my late 20s, and we would talk about what that meant, and it really was a full-time job and more. And my aunt had come from a very successful business career and was at a stage in her life where she was able to sort of fully pay attention to the needs of my grandparents, and watching her do that and talking to her about doing that and talking to her about all of the financial elements as well was really the first stop on this journey for me, although I had no idea of it at the time. Right. It definitely made me much more sensitive to what that meant and how much responsibility it was and how difficult it could be to work through that, in addition to all the other things that she was doing for them. And then my co-founder, who's a guy named Todd Rovak, came to me with the idea for what is now CAREFULL. And I sort of hearkened back to my experiences with my aunt, but it wasn't personal enough yet, and I didn't really grasp what we could do to help. And then, as life does, right, you find yourself in that position, and I'm at the beginning, in the early stages of my own caregiving and financial caregiving journey, and I'm having the fights, and I'm trying to prepare, and I'm trying to get them prepared, and I see how difficult it is just even to have the conversations.
Is this with both your parents or one parent, or? Yeah,
it's with one parent and some other family members that
Gotcha.
that we're working with, and then as I started to kind of dig into the idea, we talked to over 50. This is last year. Trying to figure out what we could actually do to help. We talked to over 50 financial caregivers and their families to try to really understand deeply the experience of it. And it became so clear how sort of omnipresent this problem is, how every day it ends up being an element of their lives. And it became much more clear what we could do to help. So a multifaceted journey to getting started with CAREFULL, and we've been working on it for a little over a year now.
What does CAREFULL do to support financial caregivers? I mean, maybe the elevator pitch almost, but because I'm sure it's quite deep.
About half of financial caregivers get pulled into their aging parents' finances because of a financial miscue of some kind. So, and things we see here are like bills that got paid 3 times or bills that didn't get paid at all. And now the landlord's upset, or the house is in foreclosure, or the lights are off. There's about $50 billion of fraud, depending on which estimate you believe. So let's say somewhere between $20 and $50 billion of fraud targeted at seniors every year in this country. And so we kept hearing from those families, well, mom thought she was giving money to a charity, but it wasn't. Or mom thought, right, these are common things. Dad thought that he was trying to get his grandson out of jail, or whatever it might be. And these stories are incredibly common in this country. Yeah. So about half the time it's a financial miscue, and about half the time it's a medical issue that sort of necessitates the children becoming involved in their parents' finances. And in that, at the beginning, what we see from our research is that the adult children don't take over the finances. It's not like, okay, the checkbook's mine now. That's not usually how it starts. How it usually starts is, hey, could you help me with this? or I'm not sure what this bill means, or I don't understand this charge on my credit card. And how can I take care of that? And so what we're doing, the first step for us is really helping new financial caregivers get their heads around the financial picture of their parents. How much comes in, how much goes out, who does it go out to, what does good look like for this family, or what does normal look like for this family? And then we start to monitor for things that might look like not normal or not good. So bills that weren't paid on time, transactions from places that aren't familiar, a lot of cash being taken out all of a sudden, or a wire transfer when wires are not sent as part of this family's normal life. So looking for things that might indicate that something is going wrong.
Is that a service that you offer to caregivers, that they can go to you and say, help us set up this financial program, as it were, so that, for someone like me who, I literally get hives from that. Like if I said, can you help me help them, and you do. So that's a service that you provide. So it's like a consulting sort of.
No. So it's even easier than a consulting service. It's
what?
It's an app. Everybody
An
knows
app.
It's an app.
Okay.
And you plug in your financial details of the accounts that you want us to monitor, computers to monitor, to be clear, not humans. So no person ever sees the details of these transactions. And the way we connect to the data is read-only, which means no money would ever be taken out of your account or anything like that. It's computers looking at sort of the transactions that are happening on the accounts that are most important to your aging parents, and alerting you when something looks off. So we have fancy computer systems that are analyzing literally every transaction that is happening on every account that matters, and looking for things that might be indicators that something is going wrong. And when that happens, we let you know about it. And then there are a couple of other pillars of the app. One is sort of communication and coordination. So what happens when something goes wrong? Well, often you're working with a sibling, or you're working with a professional of some kind to help. And so we give you the ability to pull those people into the app and work together to solve these problems. Hey, I just saw that it looks like this bill was paid twice, and your brother says, okay, well, I'll call the bank to make sure that, or the utility to make sure that it's carried over appropriately. And other interactions like that, big and small, which we're all familiar with. And then the third pillar of what we're doing is around education. So one of the things that caregivers tell us is that once it sneaks up on them, as you rightly point out, they don't know really what's next, or where to start, or what the journey is going to look like. What are the things they need to be thinking about to get in order? And so we have a ton of content that we have developed and continue to develop to sort of walk people through those steps, and even surface it at the right moments in the journey. So if we see that a particular thing has happened, we can say, okay, well, usually this means that this is about to happen next. And so here's some information that.
Wow.
So again, there's lots more to come, but that sort of the peace of mind around knowing that the train is on the tracks and everything is okay is really sort of what we feel is the foundation for helping in lots of other ways.
And I would assume that just having this tool, something that's physical, you can look at, you can show a parent and say, this is, as opposed to just saying, hey, there's got to be a lot of pushback when somebody's, when this situation comes up. So I would assume a tool like CAREFULL would be something that really gets you past some of those roadblocks, because it's not an abstract. It's right there. It's something you can look at and touch and use.
See.
So I assume that is one of the major positives of this.
Yeah, it's a really insightful comment, and it's something we definitely see from the families we're working with, is having sort of a place where this is managed and kind of a trusted platform on top of which to have these conversations is really helpful. And actually, it's one of our bigger goals, which is these conversations are super painful, as I can attest to, and I'm sure you all can.
I can.
So if you can have sort of a shared source of truth, a place to go to for not necessarily advice, because that's not really the place, the angle we're trying to take on this, but a resource and a place to kind of see all the same picture of what's going on and try to make good decisions together. Well, then it takes some of the emotion out of the conversation.
That was probably my biggest struggle. And when I talked to Max the first time, I was so excited about his app, because I had so much emotion. Like I was the caregiver, but I had no control of the finances. And so it became such a struggle and such a fight to take care of my mom the way I knew that she needed to be cared for. And because of that, I think the app really presents, like Don said, it presents an objective view of it as opposed to subjective. It's not, it's just a fact. Here it is. Mom, this is your how much you have. Mom, this is what's going on. This is what the ins and the outs, as opposed to guessing. And I think that's so important, because we're already, especially if you're the caregiver on the day-to-day basis, it's draining, it's tiring. We know this. We talk about it all the time, and it's emotional. And if you have to, and especially our parents from a different generation, finances are very private,
That's right.
and it becomes, a very sensitive topic. So it really is such a genius, brilliant idea that you had. And even if you're astute and you're a CPA, it's something that I can't imagine anybody wouldn't use, because for the members of your family that aren't as astute, it becomes a tool, an objective review, an objective, report.
Do you have any stories that would maybe similar to what Susie went through, where you have one sibling who's taking care of the money, the other sibling is taking care of the person, a battle occurs where it has kind of eased that or solved that situation?
A thing that's very common is even for there to be theft and fraud within the family. And it's something that people are worried about. And so one of the things that we do is, by sort of shining a light on everything that's happening, we can sort of help alleviate a lot of those fears. So when often the situation is exactly as you described. There's someone who's sort of taking care of the person, and there's someone who's taking care of the finances, and the person who's on the outside is always wondering what's happening on the inside. Mm-hmm. So one of our hopes is to kind of bridge that with data and information. And if everybody can be looking at the same view, one, we could head off potential problems, which are real, but two, we could also head off the fears, which are also real in these situations. And so we are starting to see that.
Right.
That
real and sometimes not founded.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly my point. That the fears from the outside, I don't really know what's happening every day. But if I can see it, now I can be assured that everything is on the up and up. And we can avoid the kind of doubt and suspicion that often creeps in to these circumstances that you described. So it is one of our goals to by bringing transparency to this, to kind of put some of those things, those fears, those emotions, which are understandable, right? But I'll put them to the side.
And also, just coming from my own experience, like there was no transparency, like you said. So, I was fighting legally to get the transparency. So I knew what my mom had. So I knew how to budget for her, and I had no idea, and having to go to court and try, to get that, and the court system, you don't want to get involved with it, is horrible. It just doesn't protect the person, your loved one. It doesn't. It protects the trust.
Yeah,
and and it's not good. So we end up spending their money to find out, and it's such a waste of money and time. And I ended up just saying, let's cut our losses and do whatever, I'll make the best of whatever I'm given, which I did.
Until it disappeared.
Until it disappears.
It was gone. Yeah.
I have so many questions. I know that people that are listening have so many questions, and I know that you can't answer everything, but how do you get the power of attorney in order to bring, to bring them into the app? So how do you do that? What are the nuts and bolts?
The truth of the matter is there aren't a lot of nuts and bolts, although if you look at the CAREFULL website. But we have a ton of resources on powers of attorney and who to talk to and the right forms to file and how all that comes together. In general, for powers of attorney, we do recommend that you work with a lawyer. There's a lot of forums online and stuff like that, but it's our experience actually that going down that road can lead to more trouble than it's worth. That is a problem, by the way, that we're working on. But for the meantime, a person, a lawyer who knows the right powers of attorney in your state is really important. Sometimes banks need different forms for their own usage, and that can get complicated. So it's good to have somebody to walk you through it. We do have resources on the website. I encourage people to take a look.
That's super important because you need that, because in order to even get the app, working, you need to be able to access those accounts. And
That's
you
great.
want
So-
to make sure, right?
Yeah, well, it's true and it's not true. So
Okay, tell.
So a thing I would say is that most caregivers in our research, something like 80+% of financial caregivers already have the login credentials to their parents' accounts because they're somewhere in the process where that's already happened. And so for right now, we're very focused on serving those people. There are
Gotcha.
tens of millions of them who are already kind of feeling the pain of what it means to be in this life stage with their parents, and so a lot of them are checking the accounts every day or every week on their own to make sure that everything's going okay, and they're going to the basket of bills that they find at mom's house when they go over, and they're looking through them to make sure that everything they're on top of everything and nothing bad's gonna happen. So there's a lot of people who are already experiencing this pain today on top of all of the rest of difficulty of being a caregiver. And those are the people we are focused on and talking to today and trying to
Gotcha.
sort of alleviate challenge. That being said, there are, as people find themselves moving through this journey, there are a lot of intricacies. It's not necessary to have a power of attorney to use CAREFULL with your parent. We do ask that the parents grant you the authorization to do it, and that's really important. You shouldn't be doing anything that you haven't been authorized to do. But it's not fully necessary to leverage the benefits of the app, specifically because it's read-only. You can't do anything with CAREFULL except understand what's happening and use it as a platform for conversation. So I would direct people to the website to get more sort of the nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty, yeah. But basically, it's a point of reference, which is very, very. It's a great tool, and it's a great. It diffuses any kinds of confusion or questions, and I think that makes that, even if you're in a contentious situation, that's going to help you, because then you can point to it and
There's
say,
transparency.
no, there's transparency, and that's so vital.
Yeah. Something I like to say is, it's hard to think of two more complicated and difficult things than family and money. When you put them together,
The worst.
Right? It's exponentially more complicated. And we really, our goal is to create a starting point for honest, discussions about working together about finances. And we feel
we talk about family. Could this be used with an appointed fiduciary who's not part of the family? And is that being done?
Absolutely, it is being done. One of the features of the app today is a thing we call the CAREFULL Circle, which is the ability to bring in trusted professionals or family members, whoever they may be, into the app, so they can see what you see, and also so you can work together around any issues that may arise.
Because I think even though, it's like, oh, this person's they're appointed and but you still, the trust factor has got to be, it's like, this is somebody else I don't know handling my money. That's got to be very nerve-wracking.
Great point. Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Great.
Well, I mean, I'm such a fan of this, because I think anything that can alleviate and organize and keep you, at least take some responsibility off of you, even if it's not, even if you were in a situation that is, like, again, contentious like mine was, it would absolutely be helpful. And if you did say have to go into court, now you have something you can even show that and say, well, this is what I have. This is the only information I have. And this is what we're going off of. And I think it'd be an amazing tool. I wish I would have had it then, but but this is why we're sharing and spreading the knowledge, because it really is smart.
I appreciate that very much. We're working very hard to make it, be as useful a resource to caregivers as we can. In part because it's very difficult being a caregiver, and it entails a lot of things. And if we can help put people at peace of mind, at least about this part, then they can focus on actually giving care.
Exactly. And it's not complicated. It's not complicated. So if you have if you get the hives like I do about it, it's going to be, it's user friendly.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's super easy to get set up. It's super easy to get the alerts, and it's super easy to navigate the apps. It's super easy.
So if you can get your Sephora app, you can do this. Hello.
And honestly, that's why we did it in the app, because at this point, everyone can navigate their way around.
Right? Yeah. What were you going to say,
Don?
I
assume I'm assuming there's a monthly fee. Is that correct? Or are there different programs?
I appreciate you asking. So you get the app via the App Store. There's a free trial followed by a $12.99 per month fee with a discount for an annual subscription.
Oh, that's so reasonable.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So how can people sign up? So they would go to carefull.com if they wanted to get in free before the end of the year.
Yeah,
so they can
get carefull.com.
Do it, everybody.
Get carefull.com with 2 L's.
Yeah, carefull.com, 2 L's, and they can sign up.
Yeah.
Do it. Why would you have nothing to lose?
The thing I wanted to mention, I was looking at a different research thing that we had done earlier, and specifically, the Alzheimer's sort of topic around this podcast. And one of the things that came up was, we had done a lot of research and of caregivers and financial caregivers. And one of the things that had come up was that among caregivers who are caring for an adult with dementia, Alzheimer's included, the highest number of people reporting pain and difficulty with finances came from that group. So to say it another way, people caring for somebody with dementia are experiencing the most pain of any group we talk to around the finances. Mm-hmm. So specifically, this is a group where we feel like we can help a lot, in part because there's so much else that's in the context of things that they're.
And it's always changing. I think somebody who has a physical disability, there's more of a constant than somebody who was suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, because it changes daily and the care changes and you never know what's coming around the corner.
Also you have a short window sometimes to get those answers and to get some for them to agree and sign on to this situation, and that's the scary part. And then if you miss that window, if you then it's very difficult to get that cooperation. So it's really important at the beginning of someone's journey in Alzheimer's to really look at the finances, as hard as it is, because like you said, Max, it becomes such a liability in this journey. And and you don't know, it's such a fluid disease. Sometimes they'll stay in a stage for a really long time, and the next time you see them, they're progressed, and you missed it. You missed your moment.
Yeah, so. No, that's a great point. And there's actually an article on our website that we have called "Your Parent Was Diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Now What?" which I would also point your audience to, which you can find on the website. And it's what we're seeing is each sort of different, whether it be health issue or other kind of issue. Each one has its own kind of set of things that have to be addressed. To your point, so if it's Alzheimer's, right, getting in early and trying to get a handle on everything that's happening up front as quickly as you can is a really important thing. And so we have some things on the website.
And I would mention that because CAREFULL, they're going to address the actual financial and how to how to work that. And then, then again, with Alzheimer's, you have a completely different set of issues, which is, it's one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's, in the beginning is paranoia and, just complete misunderstanding. And so, you guys are not the people to ask about that, and that's fine. But there are resources to figure out how to properly address the situation, even though it's a difficult one, because I know firsthand. It's like, oh, you want my money? Sure. See ya. Yeah. You want my account number? Right. In another world. What planet are you from?
Absolutely fair point. And yes, I am certainly no Alzheimer's expert.
No. But nor should you be. But you should figure that out. And there are resources, and we talk about them all the time. But that's the thing that, as a caregiver, that we have to deal with. That it just adds to the list, the checklist.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, we have a wonderful sort of director of content on our team called Cameron Huddleston, who's a relatively well-known personal finance journalist. And
we interviewed her.
Oh, you have?
Yes. we love Cameron.
Great. And she's working with CAREFULL, and she's actually putting together these incredibly useful resources, and she's super tapped into to a lot of different communities. And so, yes, I am not the person to ask, but Cameron has tapped a lot of experts around each of these things to help us put together useful guides. And so,
yeah, it takes a village and it takes a huge community, and that's it does. And it's all, again, the transparency is so important about everything, because it's been such a stigma, and not talked about, and as if it's as if it's a bad thing, as if it's you brought it on yourself. It's so stupid, it just is.
Sorry.
And
do you have any? Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, do you have any stories, or have you heard back from people where, because one of the big elements of growing older and giving up, parts of your life that you never thought you'd give up, is keeping your dignity. Yeah. And I think that something like this would help maintain, because they still feel like there's some control.
Yeah.
Does that kind of come into play?
Yeah, no, your comments are very insightful. I appreciate you sort of bringing up that angle, because it's absolutely true, and it is something we're starting to hear. Is that because it's because you kind of abstract away some of the one-on-one nature of the details, and it's sort of a computer that's looking at these things and not necessarily a person. It does create a sense of, we're working together as a team to sort of head off some of these issues, just so we make sure we don't find ourselves with a problem. And it's not me trying to be all up in your business as your adult child, but us sort of working together to put in place something to protect us collectively. And so the dignity point is really right on, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And it's something actually that we've spent a lot of time on. Is these are our goal is to bring together families around this, to make conversations easier, to make Thanksgiving easier, right? Thanksgiving is coming up right now, and it's actually ends up being like a great time of war for a lot of families, because it's when people get together and these things inevitably creep into the conversation, whether it's between siblings or whether it's with mom and dad. What are we going to do about this thing that's coming up? And their time in person to kind of tackle that. And so Thanksgiving gets ruined instead of focusing on the family and how wonderful it is to be together. We focus on these things that are looming in our brains and things that we're worried about. And really one of our goals for CAREFULL is to take that off the table, literally, at Thanksgiving and make it something that is sort of happening in the background all the time. And so we can avoid problems instead of having to fight about them.
It's interesting about the integrity, like keep gaining their dignity. Cause I remember when we moved my mom the first time to assisted living with my stepdad, and I was packing up her stuff, and I found like literally 4 pairs of pants from Chico's with the same pants with the same tag. Okay. I mean, like, what?
So interesting. Please continue with your story.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, because I mean, and I thought about it. I thought first I was so angry because I was like, because I would take my mom there from time to time because that was her place. Chico's, let's go to Chico's, right? And they were like, Norma, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, they knew. They were just selling her the same pair of pants again and again. What? Come on, folks. And so if you had your app and I could say, wait, same amount of money, going to Chico's, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row. Okay, issue. I can call Chico's and go, guys, could you help us out here and return those pants? Right? Okay, go on, Max.
So I'm like, that problem in particular is one we have heard from other customers with parents with Alzheimer's, where they will go and buy the same thing from the same place again and again and again. So we have actually developed a couple of different alerts on our side.
Shut up!
One
That's
is
so great.
one is one we call duplicate transaction, where we look if a transaction of the same or a similar amount has happened within a very a limited period of time, because our understanding is that's how those things particularly crop up. And so we are looking for that today, is one of the things that's been implemented in the app. And then we're also looking for what we call unusually frequent transaction, which is not a great way of saying it. We got to work on a better way. But if mom tends to shop at Target once a week, and now all of a sudden we're seeing 3 times a week or 5 times a week, which are very common changes in behavior that happen with Alzheimer's and dementia, then those are things we're sort of looking out for and can say, hey, point out, hey, something's a little off here. You may want to look into it. So it's funny because it's the 3rd or 4th time I've heard that very specific
example.
What I call a use case, what everybody else would probably call an example or a story, and those kinds of things are exactly the kinds of things that we're looking for, that our computers are looking for all the time.
Right. And we wouldn't think about that because I didn't even think of that. Why, and my mom, because it's during that stage where unless you know her, you would think she's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. Maybe she's, she asks a couple questions the same too many times, but basically she's fine, and you very consistent because she buys the same pairs of pants every time. Wow. I love these. These are great. Bring them up, and like Don, your dad was buying what, coins all the time?
Oh my, anything that was in the TV guide, anything that any offer, great, he thought it was a great investment. We literally got into his closet and there were just boxes of gold coins. I mean, and
so interesting. It's so common is really interesting. And it's so common that we're looking out for those things, and it's one of the things that who cares if she buys 3 pairs of pants one time, but it's not the one time, and it's what else is getting purchased way too often for what the need is, because
but the tags were still on them. I mean, she never wore them. The tags are still on them, and that it's heartbreaking because obviously that is the dignity thing, and
it makes them, and that's something that makes them feel good also.
Right. Yeah. But if you don't have to go to them and say, oh, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, if you don't have to go back and say, mommy, you're buying the same pair of pants, and then, which is, again, you're addressing their dignity and their state of mind, and it's so difficult, and it's it turns out to be mean, at the end of the day. So this way you can just kind of, in the background, you can keep an eye on it, you can monitor it, and then you can handle it gently.
Yes, that very well said, and very much the intention of what we're doing. And look, we're not doing this today, but there is actually research that suggests that changes in spending patterns among older adults can actually indicate the onset of certain issues. And so one of our longer term intentions is to help families understand when something important changes that they need to take a look at, and we think that we use the financial data to help surface some of those things. So not a thing we're doing today,
Right. That's
but
interesting.
one of the longer term things that we think we might be able to do to help families as they sort of navigate through this stage of life.
So
So
it's a
this,
barometer, right? Like a
yeah,
barometer
it's
for,
it's a behavior. Yeah, it's behavior changes. So
It's behavior changes, exactly. So
yeah,
exactly like what you're talking about. Like all of a sudden
interesting.
now we're buying. So coin. It's funny that certain kinds of memorabilia comes up a lot. Sort of QVC and that sort of purchasing
hmm
comes up a lot. Charities and the
yes.
sort of excess giving to charities comes up a lot. So there are areas where behavior changes are become indicative, or could be. I should say could be. We don't know, but
Yeah.
could become indicative of other changes
But I think
that
you're right,
would
because
be
I mean, even without spending, I know that caregivers are taught not to take gifts from people that they're caring for, not family. I'm talking about,
yes,
outside
yes,
caregivers, because they will
yes,
give things away. Take this. I don't
yes,
need it. Take this. It's
yes,
yours. Take my wedding band. Trust me, you can
absolutely.
have it. And a lot of the times we think that and yes, they do get, there are thieves, and those things happen a lot, unfortunately. But also my mom was renowned for giving things away. And because it made, I don't know why, but it is part of that syndrome of maybe
Yeah,
downsizing. I don't know what it is.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, interesting things, right? And our long-term hopes are, right, as families move through these journeys together, and we work to kind of support our loved ones and maintain their dignity and all the things which make caregiving so essential, but also so difficult, right? That we can kind of be a trusted partner in that journey as it relates to these kinds of issues.
So this is something that it seems like almost anyone, it would be good for anyone to use something like this. Do you have anyone who's a senior who doesn't necessarily is not being caregiven for, but is now using this system?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and it's something we actually talk about. For right now, we are very focused on the caregiving situation, but we have had interest from seniors for themselves, and we are thinking about whether or not that's a direction we want to take with the product. It's different enough that, and in order for us to do it right, we'd have to sort of choose to tackle it. But it's a great point, and actually it supports exactly the point you made earlier rather, which is if seniors can sort of opt into this themselves, they may actually be able to defer having to bring their children into their financial lives.
Easy transition. Yeah.
Yeah,
Easy,
that's brilliant.
So
and
it's
it's
a
yeah.
great question and something we are thinking about.
Well,
Because
I want
I felt like if a family felt like, I think we are very close to that point,
Yeah.
and say, hey, mom, dad, why don't you check this thing? This would make your life so much easier. Why don't
Yeah.
you sign up for it? And then say, and then they'd already be in it.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just including them in at that point.
like your
So
mom. Are you thinking of your
Work on
mom?
yes. Well, not mom. I know you're watching this right now, but you should
Now,
really check this out.
oh yeah, Mickey, we love you, but hey, it's easier. It
He's doing
is.
great. So.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And look, I'm using it for myself just to give a personal testimonial, and it's caught all kinds of things that even in my own finances I was not aware of. And so yes, I do think we can add value in lots of different places. I guess for we're for personal reasons and others, we're very focused on this caregiving thing because we really think we can help.
Yeah.
It's such a difficult part of caregiving, and we really want to help caregivers. I haven't talked about my background at all, but I've done a lot of things in technology, and I'm at a stage of my life where helping people and trying to serve others as part of what I'm doing is really important to me. And I feel like Careful has the opportunity to, yes, build an important, interesting business, but also really help people who are in need of help. And caregivers are a community that is so selfless and is so giving, and so it's so challenging, that if we can take some worry right off that plate, I feel like we will really be doing good, and that's really important to me. And
Yeah,
I
100%, 100%.
that's very
We
much.
applaud you. Yeah, we applaud you. We think it's fantastic. I mean, you should get, recompense for doing something that there's nothing wrong, not everything can be nonprofit, and because we've been doing a lot of sweat equity for a long time. This is my way of paying it forward and thanking the community that's helped me support my mom. And I'm very grateful. So
What I don't know where we are on time, but one of the just talking about pricing and recompense and all that, it's one of the interesting choices for a startup in the early days is do you charge or do you make it free? And you hear about this in the press, and you hear about it in the context of Facebook and companies like that. And it's really interesting because sort of the business model that the company chooses informs a lot of decisions that come down the line. If you offer it for free, you have to figure out how to sustain the thing somehow.
right.
And so that often means you end up selling ads or referring products in, or using data in complicated ways, including for some companies selling it.
Right.
And a choice that we made early on was, we're going to try to build a product that has real, honest value. And then we are going to charge a reasonable, honest price for it, so that we don't have to make decisions like that bring us down that other path. Because
Right.
then our interests are directly aligned with the interests of our customers. If we make a product that adds more value, then they get value out of it, and they will continue to be customers. And that, I think, for a company like ours, company focused on the market we're focused on, is the most authentic way
Yeah.
of bringing this product to market.
I agree
And do it without
100%.
apology. Yeah, without apology, because first of all, when you said $12.99, I was expecting you to say something more like $49.99.
Yeah. Well,
So $12.99, I think, for the service to give people peace of mind, to end family squabbles, to
Yeah.
take care of ulcers, and all of those things.
Yeah.
That is, and think of what you spend $12.99 a month on.
Wait,
on
can
other
I just
things.
say that my B of A checking account costs me $15 a month just for it. $14.99 for whatever. Yeah, it's so stupid. Like, so
I gotta show you a couple other bank accounts.
would you? Can you help me, Max?
We've done like a ton of research, right, trying to understand the problem. Talking and surveying caregivers and financial caregivers to like understand what the biggest stresses are that they feel, and we know, right, that there are many. And one of the things that I thought was most interesting that came out of that research was, when caregivers are pulled into the finances of a parent, they report because of an illness. So when caregivers are pulled into the finances of a parent because of an illness, like Alzheimer's, they report that the finances are among their highest stressors in that situation. And so we think that for, one of our bigger goals, obviously, is to try to help alleviate some of that stress. And so we feel like for caregivers in the situation of dealing with a parent with Alzheimer's, there's a lot we can do to reduce that stress and remove some of that from the equation of everything they're already dealing with.
100%. I can attest
so
to that.
important. Yeah.
I will second that emotion, unfortunately. But, fortunately, if you're listening to this, then you are going to be better off and more prepared and less stressful, and you'll have more bank in the because you won't be wasting it. And that is so important, when especially when dealing with somebody with Alzheimer's, which is going to be a very long disease. And so it's and if you don't like this topic, like I don't love it, you better love it and better try to like face it as best you can so that you don't have to face the horrors of it that can come if you don't.
Yeah.
Someone
Right,
I-
Max?
Someone whose opinion around this stuff I value a lot, this guy, Jeremy Noctegal, who's also one of the contributors to our Take Care Stories project, says it like this. He says, the sooner that you can get your head around this stuff, the sooner you can get on the same page with your parents about this stuff, the more choices you're going to have about how you want to handle all the things that are coming. And the
Yes.
longer you delay it and the longer you ignore it, the fewer choices you are going to have about how you will handle things over time. And I think everyone prefers more choices. And so
Yes.
if it's only for that reason, I think it's a good one.
And
It's
that's
a great
why,
reason.
yeah, everyone should make a choice and go to www.getcareful with 2Ls.com and relieve all that stress and make all those choices and make them easier. It's super easy. It's clicking and apping, and what could be simpler than that?
Nothing. Max, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time and
Absolutely.
sharing all your information with us, and you're delightful. And I thank the audience for continuing to hang out with us. And if you like all this information, please share it, especially Max's, a new app, and it really is important. So thank you, and subscribe, share, and like we always say,
Yeah, love is powerful, love is contagious, and love conquers all. Can't wait to see you next time.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is sing a song.